Hey, hello, my fellow property managers. Mark Cunningham. I hope you are well. Now, before we get into this video, if you notice something different here in the background, yes, we finally updated our backdrop with our new updated logo, and we're glad to have that in place going forward. Talking to you today about what is a good delinquency rate. One of the primary jobs of you as a property manager, a third-party property manager, is to collect rents. Are you doing a good job at that? You say, well, I think so. I collect most of the rents. I'm surprised how many property managers in our industry, we don't really have a standard for this. What should we be collecting? What's an acceptable rental collection rate? How do you measure your rent collection rate? So before we get into this, I want to quickly share that this last week we completed our first VisitGrace live event at our office in Denver. 10 property managers from around the U.S. came in and spent 2 days with us. This is a picture of our dinner after night one. We had my dad there, the founder of our company. He was there, I'm in there somewhere. And 10 property managers spending 2 days going deep on how to run a property management business. We have another event coming up next month. That one's sold out, but jump on our website if you're interested. We'd love to host you out there to take 2 days, give you an opportunity to pull yourself out of the junk that we deal with, pick your head up a little bit, and talk about how to improve your business. And one thing we talked about is delinquency rates, how to collect more rents to make you more money and to help your owner clients even more. So the question is this: first of all, how do we calculate it? There's no set way. Most softwares, I'm surprised, don't have some little button you can press and it pops up what your current delinquency percentage is. And some property managers think, well, gosh, do I count how many tenants are delinquent? And if I've got 10 tenants and 2 of them have a balance, does that mean I have a 20% delinquency rate? But wait, that doesn't work, because what if one of them owes $5 and one of them owes $5,000? Maybe I better take that into consideration. And do I calculate it on the second day of the month because rents are due in the first? Or there's just so many questions around that. So let me give you some best practices on how we have calculated our delinquency rate to have a consistent measuring tool. And then at the end of this video, I'll tell you why it's important and what is an industry healthy delinquency rate. So number one, here's how I recommend you calculate it. Number one, you calculate it each month on the same day of the month. That's very, very important. Because if you calculate your delinquency rate on the second day of the month, it's going to be huge, because a lot of people haven't paid by the second. If you wait till the third, it's going to go down a little more. Wait till the fourth, it's going to go down a little bit more. But at what date? And you need to make sure you're calculating your delinquency rate the exact same day every month. Now, in a moment, I'll give you an example and show you how we calculate that way. Number two, I recommend you calculate it using your total outstanding rent. Don't worry about how many tenants are delinquent. It's the dollar amount of rent outstanding. And whether that means you have 5 tenants or 50 tenants, doesn't matter. It's the dollar amount outstanding. That's kind of some best practices on how we want to calculate. So let me give you a real life example. You probably can't see this real well, but let's pretend that the total rent, and this is what you need to do, the total rent charged on the first day of the month, you need to start tracking that. The total rent charged on the first day of the month is $100,000. Let's pretend you have 100 properties. Maybe they're each running for $1,000 a month. So on the first day of the month, you charge $100,000. Write that down somewhere, because that is one of the 2 numbers you're going to need to calculate your delinquency rate, because that's the goal. The goal is to collect all the rent that was charged. So the important thing to know, number one, how much rent you charge on the first day of the month? $100,000 in this example. Step 2, we're going to take the total rent outstanding. Now, you can pick whatever day of the month you want. I recommend you use the last day of the month. Give yourself a full month accounting cycle to attempt to collect all that rent, because it's going to continue to ebb down and ebb down and ebb down. But the goal is to get rent collected obviously as quickly as possible. But if we can't collect it in that month, that's seriously delinquent. Now, it's technically delinquent before that, but as far as the calculation for you to decide how much you're collecting, we've decided that we're going to use the last day of the calendar month. Now, you may want to use an earlier day. That's fine. Obviously, whatever day of the month you use, your delinquency rate is going to be a little bit higher. The important thing isn't which day, it's to make sure it's the consistent same day in every calculation. I recommend you use the last day of the month because it gives you a full 31 days to collect that rent. So let's pretend on the last day of the month you run a report and you say how much rent is still outstanding on the last day of the month. And in this case, let's pretend there's $1,500 outstanding. Your goal is to collect $100,000. The last day of the month, there's $1,500 outstanding. What do we do to calculate that? Well, we're going to divide and multiply by 100. We're going back to 8th grade math, my friends. So we're going to take the outstanding rent, $1,500. We're going to divide it by the total rent we were attempting to collect, $100,000. 1,500 divided by 100,000 is 0.015. Then to convert 0.015 to a percentage, you can either move the decimal 2 places, remember this from 8th grade math, or you can multiply by 100, and it gives us 1.5%. Our delinquency rate in that particular month was 1.5%. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, before I tell you why you need to know this and what we want to do with this, I want to thank the sponsor for this month's video, Latchel. Maintenance is tough, is it not? Latchel is a 24/7, not just a call center, but a disbursement center for all your maintenance calls. Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to take any more maintenance calls ever again? That's how Latchel can potentially help you. You can use them just for after hours. You can use them to take all the calls that come in, and you can use them just to pass those on to you. You can use them to disperse appropriate vendors. They are a solution for the biggest problem we have in our industry, maintenance. So reach out to my friends at Latchel. Ask them to give you a demo of their software to how it can help you improve your maintenance process. You build it into your resident benefit package, and it becomes a profit center for you as well. Okay, here we go back. Here's why it matters. Why it matters. Number one, it reveals a lot about your screening process. If you're doing an amazing job on screening new tenants coming in, new applicants, then your delinquency rate should be pretty low. If your delinquency rate is really, really high, maybe that tells you you're not doing a good enough job screening individuals coming in, and you need to raise your screening criteria. You need to have the higher credit score. So it tells you a lot about that. Number two, it reveals a lot about your collection process. How streamlined is it? You know, coming out of COVID, we all kind of threw our collection processes out the window because we really couldn't evict anybody anyway. That's over now. So you need to get back to having a standardized collection process where you say to the tenant, oh, you can't pay rent? Okay, here are your options. Instead of saying, hey, well, what can you do? You need to say, Mr. Tenant, here are your options. You can pay half now and half on the 15th. I mean, whatever you want to have, but have a process, and your delinquency rate's going to reveal a lot about the quality of your collection process. Number three, it's very good marketing knowledge to use for new prospective owner clients. When a prospective owner client is thinking of hiring you and they're comparing you to other folks, you want to know and you want to be able to tell them what your rent collection rate is, which is the inverse of your delinquency percentage. So we can say, for example, in our business, this is our standard collection percentage. We say, every month we collect over 99% of the rents that are owed to us. And that is for us. We collect 99% on a monthly basis. So is that important to know? Of course it's important to know. And most PMs don't know that. You want to know it so that you can share it in your marketing presentation. And one final comment is this. Expect your delinquent rents to increase right now over time. We're seeing this across the industry. The publicly traded companies are seeing this that do single family home management. Everywhere that I've seen, and ours included, our delinquency rate is going up. Why is that? Well, when COVID hit, the government sent out a lot of money, right? We all got rents paid on behalf of our tenants from the government. And so the delinquency rate really went down. You couldn't evict. If somebody needed money, the government was going to fund that rent and pay that rent. So we all got our rents paid at that point in time. By and large, that government funding of tenant rent payments is gone. It's dried up. The money is pretty much in most states gone. So there's no more government funding. At the same time, we have an economy slowing down a little bit. We're starting to see layoffs happen. We're starting to see inflation in a significant way. Tenants have to spend more money to put gas in their car, to put food on the table, and they're still paying the rent, but we're starting to see delinquencies creep up because some tenants just don't have the money, and the government is not going to pay that for them. And at the same time, it's taking longer on average to go through an eviction process, which means your delinquency rate is going up because that $1,000 that tenant owes that you would typically evict them in a month and it would come off of your delinquency list. Now it's taking you maybe 3 months to evict. So now it's not just $1,000 that they owe. Now the next month it's $2,000. Then it's $3,000. And it's going to keep growing until you can complete an eviction process, which no one likes to do, but sometimes it's necessary. But that's going to increase the overall amount that you're delinquent. So, in closing, what should be a healthy delinquency rate? It's going to be very, very market specific, and it's going to be very, very specific to the types of properties you are managing. If you're managing low-income property in Detroit, and I'm not trying to pick on Detroit, your delinquency percentage is going to be higher than if you're managing executive homes in Los Angeles. It just is. That's just the nature of the individuals renting the property and that group of folks that are paying. So that's why it's important for you to track this every month, because you're not measuring against the industry. You're measuring against yourself last month. And then you're measuring against yourself the next month and the next month. Your goal is to just take your internal delinquency rate and drop it a little bit lower over time. So historically, ours has been over 99%. But keep in mind, we're measuring on the last day of the month. So pick the day of the month. But you want to make sure, ideally, I mean, this is just to throw out a ballpark. Ideally, you want to make sure you're collecting at least over 90%, 90. If you get to the last day of the month and you've got more than 10% of rent outstanding, you need to look at yourself, or you need to look at your processes, or maybe it's just the quality of the properties you're managing. So those are some things to keep in mind as it comes to managing the expectations of your owner clients for your delinquent rent percentage. Start measuring it, start using it. Hey, if we can be a resource, jump on our website, pmbuild.com. You can register for our next VisitGrace event on there. We'd love to have you out in Denver, but we've got forms, documents, system packages, manuals, training, everything you could need to help build, grow, and protect your property management company.